10 seconds that turned a masterpiece into a scandal. The FIA's judgment mechanical, inconsistent, and blind to context. Hamilton, usually the calm center of chaos, finally loses patience. His words cut through the noise. Enough is enough. This isn't racing anymore. Hamilton's Ferrari ran wide, just inches beyond the white line. Grass flashed beneath his wheels. Instinct, not thought, took over. He counter-steered a perfect correction, the kind only a few on Earth can execute. The rear snapped, then gripped again. His pulse stayed steady, his focus absolute. Verstappen darted ahead for a heartbeat, but Lewis didn't need panic. He needed precision. The car was alive in his hands, every vibration a conversation, every flicker of traction an opportunity. "We're still in it," he told himself, voice calm even as the world blurred at 200 miles per hour. Down the back straight, the red car came alive. DRS flap open, engine howling, hybrid power surging through the chassis. 210 miles per hour, the Ferrari slicing through the altitude like a scalpel. Verstappen defended hard, weaving slightly, but Hamilton was already reading the rhythm, predicting every move. To the outside first, feinting left, then cutting back to the right with surgical precision. It wasn't aggression, it was art. Every movement calculated, every millimeter intentional. The braking zone approached like a wall. Hamilton didn't flinch. He braked late, impossibly late. The car danced. The rear twitched. Grass sprayed up in streaks of green and brown, and for a fraction of a second, it looked lost. But Hamilton's hands were faster than the slide. One flick, a perfect modulation of throttle and steering, and the Ferrari snapped back into balance. It was a move so clean it didn't need defending because it was already history. "That's Hamilton at his best," shouted commentators as the crowd exploded in applause. On the radio, even his engineer couldn't hide the awe. "Beautiful Lewis. Absolutely beautiful." And for a moment, everything felt right. Then, the voice that shattered the airwaves, Car 44 under investigation for leaving the track and gaining an advantage. The pit wall froze. The engineer hesitated before repeating it, as if hoping it was a mistake. "Say again." Hamilton asked, his tone flat, controlled, but carrying the weight of disbelief. "Under investigation." A short pause. For what? For catching a slide. The silence that followed was louder than any engine. He didn't argue. He didn't shout. He just exhaled slowly, the kind of silence that says more than words ever could. The race was over, but the Ferrari garage felt like a storm about to break. Mechanics moved slowly, voices low, faces tight with disbelief. The monitors still replayed the moment, the overtake, the slide, the control, and then the graphic that had changed everything. 10-second penalty. Nobody could explain it. Nobody even tried. The air smelled of burnt rubber and frustration. When Hamilton walked in, he didn't need to say a word. His presence alone silenced the room. Helmet in hand, visor still down, he looked like a soldier returning from a battle that logic had lost. Fred Vasseur stood waiting, arms crossed, jaw locked. "Lewis," he began, "we're running the data now." Hamilton didn't answer. He walked straight to the telemetry screen, eyes scanning the numbers like a man reading his own heartbeat. "There," he said, pointing to a dip in the throttle trace. "I lifted. You see the delta? I lost time." The engineers around him nodded quietly. The facts were right there, clean, simple, irrefutable. "And yet," Hamilton continued, "they call that an advantage. I guess control is illegal now." His tone was calm, but the words cut like a blade. Vasseur exhaled sharply. "It's absurd," he muttered. "They talk about fair racing, but when you actually race, they punish it." Hamilton turned to him, his gaze steady. "It's not just about fair racing, Fred. It's about consistency. If they're going to call that an advantage, then half the grid should have been penalized today. But it's always me. Every time I push, every time I try something instinctive, they question it." He paused, then added quietly but firmly, "I'm tired of pretending it's coincidence." The room fell silent. For years, Hamilton had been the voice of composure, the man who spoke softly when others exploded. But now the patience was cracking, not in rage, but in truth. He turned back to the footage and replayed it again, slower this time. "Look at that correction," he said. "That's experience keeping two cars from colliding. That's what they're calling a penalty." He looked at Vasseur. "If this is what Formula One wants, then what are we even teaching the next generation? That control isn't allowed? That instinct is a crime." The words landed heavy. No one dared to answer. An hour later, the press conference began. The room was packed journalists shoulder to shoulder, cameras flashing like lightning. Hamilton walked in first, composed but cold. When the first question came, "Lewis, how do you respond to the penalty?" His reply was immediate. "It's not acceptable," he said. "We're told to race hard and fair. I did both. If you can't trust the people governing the sport to apply their own rules consistently, then what are we doing here?" His voice was steady, every word deliberate. It wasn't anger for show, it was anger sharpened by reason. The questions kept coming. "Do you think there's bias?" a journalist asked. Hamilton paused, eyes fixed on the room. "I think there's a pattern," he said. "And when patterns repeat, you stop calling them mistakes." The silence after that was total. Even Vasseur looked stunned. It wasn't defiance, it was truth stripped of diplomacy. He continued, "I've spent my life giving everything to this sport. I respect it too much to stay quiet when it disrespects itself." The room erupted flashes, murmurs, gasps, but Hamilton just sat back, expression unchanged. He'd said what needed saying. Nothing more, nothing less. By the time the night ended, his words had already circled the globe. BBC Sport, Hamilton loses patience, demands consistency from FIA. Sky Sports, Hamilton breaks silence, enough is enough. And across the Atlantic, the New York Times wrote, Hamilton's calm fury exposes Formula One's crisis of integrity. But inside Ferrari, there was no celebration, only quiet respect. Because this wasn't rebellion. It was leadership. Hamilton hadn't exploded, he had outclassed them. He'd turned frustration into clarity, and in doing so, reminded everyone that real power doesn't shout. It simply speaks the truth and walks away. Monday morning in Maranello didn't feel like recovery. It felt like retaliation. The Ferrari headquarters, usually alive with the rhythm of post-race debriefs, was silent, focused, clinical. The Mexican Grand Prix was over, but the investigation was just beginning. Inside the performance analysis room, the glow of 20 screens lit up Hamilton's telemetry like a heartbeat. Engineers whispered in short, sharp exchanges. Every data point, every trace, every tenth of a second was under scrutiny. They weren't chasing performance anymore, they were chasing proof. Fred Vasseur entered quietly, his steps echoing against the polished floor. "Let's start," he said, his voice low but firm. The head of performance analytics, a veteran engineer, known for his precision, began the presentation. On the main screen appeared two lines, blue for Verstappen, red for Hamilton. "This," he said, "is turn 4. He zoomed in. Lewis enters at 204 kilometers per hour. Throttle input drops to 47% as the rear touches the grass. Brake pressure spikes. The delta time." He paused. -0.3. He lost time. The room went quiet. Vasseur's expression didn't change, but his hands tightened behind his back. "So the FIA called that a lasting advantage?" he asked, incredulous. The engineer nodded reluctantly. "That's their justification." Vasseur shook his head slowly. "Then the system's broken." He turned toward the team. "We'll give them the truth, and this time, they won't be able to ignore it." Then the door opened. Hamilton walked in. No PR team, no dramatics, just the quiet authority of someone who knows he's right. He stood in front of the display, eyes locked on the data. "Play it again," he said. The footage replayed, the overtake, the slide, the recovery. He didn't blink. "Stop there," he said, pointing to the exact frame where his rear wheels hit the grass. "You see that?" The engineer nodded. "Rear tires unload, traction loss detected." Hamilton smiled slightly. "Exactly. That's me saving the car. That's not advantage. That's control." He moved closer to the screen, tracing the telemetry line with his finger. "Throttle modulation, steering correction, it's a reflex. If I don't lift there, I'm in the wall. Or worse, I'm taking someone with me." His tone sharpened. You'd think the FIA would appreciate that level of control. The engineers around him exchanged glances. They'd worked with hundreds of drivers, but no one spoke the language of physics like Hamilton. He didn't need computers to interpret his car. He felt what the sensors could only record. Vasseur looked at him, half proud, half furious. "You're describing the data better than our systems," he said. Hamilton shrugged. "That's 20 years of feedback loops," he replied. "I don't just drive the car, I listen to it." The room fell silent again, the kind of silence that comes when everyone knows they're watching something rare. One of the younger engineers whispered, "He's not reacting, he's remembering." And he was right. Hamilton's precision wasn't guesswork. It was intuition built from a lifetime of perfection. By the afternoon, Ferrari had their case. A full forensic report, 110 pages of telemetry, GPS overlays, and video syncs titled Turn 4, No Advantage, Only Control. The conclusion was absolute. Hamilton had lost momentum, corrected masterfully, and gained nothing but survival. Vasseur signed it with a single instruction: send it to the FIA. Copy the press. He didn't want quiet justice. He wanted transparency. When Sky Sports F1 and BBC Sport got hold of a report, the reaction was immediate. "This destroys the FIA's argument," said Martin Brundle live on air. "The data proves Hamilton lost time, not gained it. You can't penalize car control." Ted Kravitz added, "They didn't just get the call wrong, they embarrassed themselves trying to justify it." Across the Atlantic, ESPN ran the headline, "Hamilton's precision turns data into protest." And on social media, the phrase, "they punish perfection," trended for 48 hours straight. Meanwhile, the FIA went silent. No response, no clarification, just bureaucratic quiet. And in that silence, Hamilton's composure became the loudest voice in the sport. Reporters asked him if he felt vindicated. His reply was simple: "I don't race for apologies. I race for truth." That sentence went viral in minutes because it captured everything people admired about him, the calm confidence of a man who knows that real justice doesn't need permission. Inside Ferrari, the mood shifted from anger to pride. The engineers who had spent the night buried in numbers now spoke of him with awe. "He doesn't just drive, he decodes," said one. "He feels what the car is doing before we see it in the data." Vasseur agreed quietly. "That's what makes him dangerous," he said. "He's not fighting the system emotionally. He's beating it with evidence."